Hi, welcome back. My name is Mindy Meng Wang. I'm a composer and a Guzheng performing artist. Today, I will be introduce the instrument Guzheng to you. And when we call it Guzheng now, there are two words, two characters in this name. First is Gu, and second is Zheng. So Gu actually means ancient, because this instrument has more than 2,500 years of a history. Actually, you can find it in poems, you can find it in ancient books, and you can find it in some ancient scrolls. And so it really have a really rich history. And Zheng, the name, there are many different stories of why we call it a Zheng. And one of them is because when you play this instrument, it sounds like zeng, zeng, zeng. In the old days, where the string were different, when the instrument were not developed so much, it create sound like that, and then they call it Zheng. Also, another story suggested it's because it has same pronunciation with another Chinese word, zheng, which means fight. So there are some stories around this, why you would call an instrument fight. They're slightly different, but basically they're just, for example, one story is like a man who plays an instrument called se, which is a real instrument in the history. And they were saying se has many, many strings, and this man has two daughters. And when both the daughter wants his instrument, so he has to split that into two and give one each. So that's because the daughter fight for the instrument, so he names the instrument Zheng. And the similar stories will tell us between father and son, but basically it's a split from the se, and it became Zheng. So in the long history, Zheng has changed a lot. It emerged around the warrior state period, and the string, we believe that around this was originally around 12, 13 strings. And then later on in Tang Dynasty, it increased to 14 to 16. And then in Ming-Qing Dynasty, it increased to 17, 18, and later 20, 21. Now 21 is the standard string number of this instrument. When you look at this instrument, you will generally what you look at is a hollow wooden box. Inside of it's hollow inside, and there are two main holes to let sound out at the bottom. And the back of the instrument, what we call the zhengwei, is the end of a zheng. And the curving S shape and the long shape here, what we call yueshan. And that's where the ends of the strings. Then you will see this many, many little bridges. One is holding a string. They're actually movable. So when you move the bridges, you can change the pitch. And we use the movement to help to tune the instrument. The string would actually go in from the end, from the bottom, go and come all the way across here, cross the bridge, and cross the front yueshan, and go into this little box here. As you can see, the strings are tied up on here. And then when we tune a string, you can use a tuner and to turn to make it tight or looser. But then for the fine tune, you can move those bridges. This is the shape of the instrument. And the range of the instrument is actually quite big. When you think about the string number, you probably do the math. It was all 21. Okay, so you must have almost 2 octaves, considering like you have to have 12 notes. No, we actually have 4 octaves and a bit, because this instrument is tuned in pentatonic, which means you have 5 natural notes per octave. And here, this is what they sound like in the traditional tuning. That's a little bit. So the string now, like it's made of nylon and steel, like metal, very similar to a lot of Western instrument, because originally it was gut string and the silk really limited what kind of music you can play. Talking about music and techniques, this instrument actually, after they developed into the form like this, the repertoire has grown rapidly because the instrument actually can produce a lot more sound. For example, the traditional bending notes couldn't go to very high because they will break the string, but now the bending can sometimes go to like major third. The bending notes sounds like this. And I think the bending notes is one of the really significant techniques that we use on this instrument to form the flavor of the instrument, the sound palette. But what's the technique? Okay, the technique usually in the old days, we only pluck string with right hand. So we use 4 fingers to pluck the strings. But in the modern repertoire, you would also use the left hand. And this is just plucking, but also we have tremolors. And we have this glazing. This is another technique that I think very characteristic on this instrument. And we also there are like technique like you play and then you hold the string and harmonics. That's generally what we played in the pitched area on the right hand side of the bridges. Left hand side usually just for bending the strings. So the technique on the left hand was different kind of bending. and it can really adding the flavor to the instrument. I think is quite unique for Guzheng. Usually, we would wear plectrums to play the instrument. In the older days, it was made of a turtle shell, and a lot just shells. But now that there are different kind of materials and it can replace that. So we love turtles and we don't use them to make plectrums anymore. And when you wear those plectrums, you will produce clear and louder sound, and you can have more control on the sound. And the notation, I talked about the Chinese traditional notation in last video, but for Guzheng, there is special notation called 24记谱法. Okay, so basically it means 2/4. I don't know why I call it 2/4. It looks like this. As you can see, there are so many Chinese characters on them. They're actually Chinese numbers. So the numbers are, each numbers are matching a certain pitch, and the different adds-on around the numbers, they are telling you the technique and the length of the notes and octaves. And the new generation, actually probably in the last 100 years or probably a bit less, we all use 简谱, which is a numbered notation. And now you can have a look at this picture. These are real numbers to you. And then for 简谱, the numbers describes the distance between notes. So because this instrument has very, very long history, it falls into different kind of styles and genres. And generally, we divided those genres in two parts, one southern and one northern. There's a lot big sub-genres of Guzheng music, Guzheng repertoires. And for example, a lot in northern styles, northern genres, music are generally quite straightforward, and they're a bit more like you feel like you have more strength. I think it's because of the geography of China. In northern China, the weather are more extreme, and the music can relate. People feel related to them. They are more tough and extreme. Whereas in southern China, the weather, everything is so mild and beautiful and gentle. So a lot of southern music tend to be quite gentle. So this is some general information about this instrument. But in China, most players, they would still play in the traditional way. But in last decade, a lot new players start looking for the different way to bring into the contemporary world, and I'm one of them. So later on in the future videos, I'll talk about traditional music on this instrument and the contemporary practice I do on this instrument.